Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, folks, and we are 6 days or 6 sleeps away from Xbox and its showcase, and of course, followed by the 90-minute extravaganza, as it appears that it's going to be. We have the Starfield reveal, and Arron Greenberg, good old Greenie, is out there with some really powerful, exciting Twitter comments. And of course, obviously, he told one particular community member that is not currently an Xbox user that he should bring an extra pair of underwear when it comes to, of course, watching and seeing Starfield. And look, you can say what you want about Greenie. Maybe he tells you to temper expectations too many times, and people don't like that because nobody wants to temper expectations. Not this time. And people have accused Greenie of overhyping a showcase. Folks, look, I'm here to tell you that there is absolutely no way. There is no freaking way in the gaming universe that Microsoft misses on this show. It's the gaming gods have set forth a path for Microsoft, specifically Xbox, that is so golden that the yellow brick road has nothing on this path. Sony took a giant dump about 2 weeks ago on their showcase that was only saved by the fact that Spider-Man 2 looked that amazing. Outside of it being a D, because it would have been an F for, frankly, not a good show, I don't know what to tell you. Sony's direction is scaring a lot of PlayStation gamers, whereas Xbox, well, we already have games as a service locked in, and they're consistently adding to that, where Sony is flopping around like a fish. They don't know who they want to be, because this is not the Sean Layden PlayStation, which, let's be fair, was amazing. Sean and the way he ran PlayStation is why they are the market leader. But you know what? Jim Ryan, the new Jim Ryan's PlayStation, is gas games. And that's something that you're not probably going to see at this showcase. And we have some big confirmation of what is going to be in-game engine, what is actually going to be gameplay. Quite frankly, almost all of it, according to Arron Greenberg. But before we get into Square Enix and their concerns for Final Fantasy 16 and its sales, let's introduce the amazing panel. Web Dave, what's going on, brother? How the heck are you? What's new?
Oh man, I'm whoo, buddy. I'm telling you, even last night we were doing our show and this stuff started coming in, and we kind of broke in on our show and we're like, "Did you see what Aaron just tweeted, dude? I am so hyped." You were talking about being 11, maybe a 15, maybe a
I moved
19.
it to a 19, brother. My
I
my
know.
my my, my hypometer is broken. Thanks, Aaron. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
After we got
yeah.
it fixed now.
Is it possible to be 100 above? Because that's feeling pretty good right now, man. It's feeling really good. I can't see anything they're gonna do wrong. I
Yeah.
just so I'm here. I'm excited. Let's get to it. What a great panel today.
Yeah, we're gonna have a fun conversation, folks. And if you're wondering what the coverage looks like for Double Barrel Gaming, every panel this week is going to have some sort of predictions element added to the conversation, because each one of the panels, as you know, is different. And of course, I don't do shows on Saturday. Very rarely. This the past Saturday, I happened to guest appear on Xbox Chatter Days with Miles Dompierre of Windows Central and of course IGN. And Sunday, I didn't get a chance to jump into the ILP prediction podcast because I was out with Mrs. Boom. And when you podcast 5 days a week, you got to make time for your significant other. And the weekend is usually dedicated to Mrs. Boom because she works Monday through Friday. So it's it's the least I can do. So for the 5 shows, and there is going to be a sixth one because we are doing a post-show reaction panel that has a stellar, at least currently, 10-person roster with more to be added potentially. that is going to happen directly after the Starfield showcase, which is expected to be about 30 minutes. So as soon as that is done, we are going live to give you our reaction live on the air and then grade the show. And of course, then that following Monday, which is we'll be back here at Xbox Lunch Break Special. We'll be able to have soaked it in, watched everything, on YouTube time and time again, and then we will obviously the four of us will sit down and discuss it in detail. But don't worry, folks. Double Barrel Gaming is going to have you covered. I'm doing 6 live streams, not Saturday. Obviously, there's no stream on Saturday, but we will be covering the event in a post-show form. I want to sit back and enjoy the show on Sunday as a fan, and then I will put on my podcast ears and then be the podcaster you know and love. But Crazy Lou Gaming in the new place. Congratulations, brother. How the heck are you?
Man, I'm super excited, super happy to be here, brother. And man, it's showcase week. And you know what we need for this Sunday? We need to get Phil an actual championship belt after this showcase because, man.
I'm sure King David is working on that as we speak.
Yes, he does need a championship belt because, man, for what I'm seeing from all those tweets and everything, I mean, I think they're going to bring a lot of fire this Sunday, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I don't think I've been this excited for an Xbox show in quite a bit. And I think, again, the hype that I have for the show has only been multiplied by 10 just in the last bunch of tweets. And there's been some scandalous ones there, Fuzzy Belvedere. Arron Greenberg doing what we've all hoped that Greeny would do best, and that is throw some shade at the potential naysayers of the community who think that Xbox is not going to deliver. I'm going to read some of those quotes. Pretty interesting stuff, but man, how the heck are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. It's good to see him out here giving us a little bit of insight with the no trailers and stuff like that. Just basically games, and having it labeled where it's in game and all that stuff. So, man, I think a lot of the either concerns or doubts that some may have had should have been squashed in that moment. And even some people need to bring an extra set of drawers with them while they watch this show. So, man, I'm so looking forward to it, man. This thing is going to be awesome. But glad to be here with you guys. Always awesome to be here talking about games. And we got a big showcase coming this Sunday, so can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, so listen, folks, before we get into what Arron Greenberg had to say, obviously you've seen the silly thumbnail that I made with the Final Fantasy character from 16 with the googly eyes looking, pathetic, because, well, that is how I look and feel when I talk about Square Enix. Pathetic. This is a brand that has gone down in the dumps, at least in my opinion. They've made it very, very clear that the Xbox platform does not exist. And when it does, well, we get the scraps. And that's why I won't support them. I will not buy anything from them moving forward because, well, F Square. But I bring this up as a conversation piece because someone who I trust, someone that I actually know who follows me, who actually is closing in, if not already, at 1 million subscribers, because, he does good work. I'm talking about Jeremy Penter, known as, of course, ACG. And he posted something on June 3rd that made me scratch my head because normally he's let's just say this. When there is controversy with ACG, he's not doing it because he needs your click or he needs your sub or your like. Because he has, like I said, nearly 1 million subscribers. He puts out information because the guy is trustworthy and he has, to me, a valued opinion. Well, this is what he had to say based on several reports I saw even before I saw his tweet. And he says, Square Enix is supposedly panicking over the pre-order amounts for Final Fantasy 16. The amount is probably exactly the amount that they turned down from Xbox. Whoever does the books for Square Enix needs to take another economics course. Now, this one got a lot of backlash. Of course, I had to reply. Of course, that I did. But I want to read us a bunch of replies. Now, we have one from a good friend of the program. You know him from the Zealots of Gaming. It's a new podcast with Hargeet Chani. But he's also has been for many, many years a panel member on RDX. I'm talking about Zalker87, folks. And he replied directly to ACG's tweet. And he says this, folks. How are they surprised? Go exclusive on PlayStation 5 with 40 million units only. Skips PC and Xbox that adds tens of millions of users. I will never feel sorry for a publisher that skips entire platforms. Now, here's the thing, folks. Square Enix has a they should worry. And the reason why, because you know me, I'm all about the numbers, right? You want to argue Boom's opinion about whether Square Enix just sucks. We can have that conversation. But you can't argue the numbers. So over the weekend, as I'm prepared for these shows, I decided to say, you know what, let's take a look at the non-Xbox releases for Square Enix games and see if the bean counters over at Square Enix are getting it right. Well, one of their latest releases was the Final Fantasy Pixel Remastered Collection. And that was Final Fantasy 1 through 6, all remastered. And that's a pretty dope collection. And it hit everywhere. And I mean everywhere. I could play it on my toaster. But Xbox. Well, as of 5/23, which of course is May 23rd, May 23, they just were able to crack 2 million copies sold. So, again, not a mathematician, folks, just a gamer. PlayStation, Nintendo, Amazon Luna, PC, everywhere but Xbox, and they racked up a whole whopping 2 million. So let's continue the embarrassment. The one game that did come out was Crisis Core that actually released on Xbox. Do you know why that was? Desperation. Because you know how many copies sold as of 12/2022? 156,530. Good luck keeping games with Xbox. And I saw some pushback on this. Oh, you see, if Xbox gamers cared, they would have helped these sales. Why should any Xbox gamer take the scraps that Square Enix is giving them? So let's continue. Now, I went to Statista.com to get this number, and we have lifetime sales of Final Fantasy 15, which was on Xbox. Lifetime sales since its launch, 10 million copies. Now, that's pretty impressive for a game that I thought sucked. I bought it, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. After driving in the same car with the boy band on my 18th time, like Persona 5, Persona 5 is a great game, wasn't for me. So one of the big ones that Xbox gamers have been waiting for is Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is a phenomenal game. Now, I don't know why, and I'm going to eventually reach out to someone like a Benji Sales who has the ability to find these numbers. The best I could find was a number that came the way in 2021, the end of 2021, where they moved 5 million plus copies of a game that is by no stretch of the truth phenomenal. So when you consider how many PlayStations are in the wild, about 118 million, and then you factor in some PlayStation 5s, another 40 million, there are 160 million PlayStations, and I can only find 5 million copies sold. Now, could it be double that? Sure, but even if it was double that, it'd still be disgraceful. So now we got to wonder, Fuzzy Belvedere, why do we always hear Square, the first ones? Well, the sales did not meet expectations. You think? Let's talk about it, brother.
It never fails. Like, we talk about companies stepping on rakes. It seems like Square has its own way of doing things where it's like, oh, we want to sell 10 million copies, but we'll only put it on one platform. Oh, wait, they didn't pre-order it like we hoped. You would think they would learn after Forspoken. You would think they would learn after, I forget that one game they had to close down the servers within like 2 months type of thing. Crisis Core, it's like a prequel to something where if you would want the rest of the story, you'd have to buy it on a different platform. So they're doing a lot of things that just don't make sense. I mean, look at companies like Capcom, look at companies like Sega, where they're not, I mean, finally Sega is, with Atlas and some of their other studios are putting stuff on the Xbox platform, and it looks like they're actually getting a lot more sales than what they initially thought that they were kind of ignoring, kind of thing. And it just seems like Square is like, we're good with our best friends over here at Sony. And unfortunately, it just seems like they haven't looked at what some of the other big publishers are doing outside their own building, and the revenue that they're earning. It's I don't know. They always overestimate stuff. That's why they were never happy with Crystal Dynamics or Eidos Montreal. I guess they're probably extremely disappointed with Forspoken, because they took that studio and wrapped it into one of their other studios. So
yeah,
it's just a shame, but it's of their own doing. It's like we talk about some companies where they have self-inflicted wounds. I think Square Enix is probably one of the best examples of that. Every time it's like, yeah, we could put it on Xbox, but nah, we're not going to do it. And
yeah,
this is the result.
yeah. It's a shame. And again, the question, listen, I don't know how many copies of Final Fantasy 16 are going to sell. It's only releasing on PlayStation 5. Obviously, we know that it's probably a permanent exclusive. Now, whether that's contractual, whether that's Sony's going to make the big purchase and acquire them, which everyone's been talking about for over a year, who knows? But you know what? It's hard to take them serious when they completely forget that there is an Xbox console. Now, granted, their games, depending on who you ask, I like to consider them they're a bit niche. But we will see what the sales numbers are, and if the sales numbers are to be believed by pre-orders, which again that's you take that in small doses, or whether or not anyone pre-orders anymore. I still pre-order. So, I mean, I can't speak for everyone else, but Dave, let's get your hot take on this. Square Enix concerned about Final Fantasy 16 pre-order numbers. And again, this comes away of many people in the community, but more specifically, ACG put a tweet out there that, and again, I trust ACG significantly. And if he's saying it, I believe that he's heard it from somebody, because he wasn't the only one to tweet it. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I mean, I think they're a little nervous because of the situation they found themselves in. People have been burnt, by Square in the last, few games that have come out. And, we think that this game is going to be really well done because they've delayed it twice to tweak it and to get it hopefully flushed out even more and to get most of the bugs worked out of it. But you just don't know. We just, and that's the thing. It's kind of a question mark. People want to kind of see what the reviews are before they probably spend their money or throw money at it. I mean, my daughter's a big fan of the series, and she was going to buy it no matter what. She's got her copy reserved at GameStop right now, and that's cool. But I'm, if it's any good, I'll just borrow her copy. But I'm not gonna spend my money on myself. But I don't. I think in the big scheme of, there's something going on, and we're not really sure what that is. They're either getting ready to get, bought up by Sony or somebody. But anyway, they could be picked up by who knows who could be picking them up, because we know they're hurting for money. We know they're hurting. And it's a shame, because like I said, in the day, they've really made some good products in the past. We've talked about it before. Like the original 7 on PlayStation was like, that was a game changer, man. Those RPGs were like, what is this? And so the company has a long history of good quality games, and not only that, but the Dragon Quest series as well, the Kingdom Hearts series. They have a lot of things that have been done well in the past, and and then like Forspoken just smacked everybody in the face of like, what is this garbage, you know? And whether it's the times, whether it's just they were focused too much on one side, weren't really looking what the other hand was doing. I don't know, but I think that the smart thing for them to do would be to put games everywhere. And if they're taking, they're talking about how, was it that Microsoft didn't, present them with a good enough offer, kind of thing. It's like, how good's your offer now? The PlayStation has tons of systems out there right now, has tons of system sales. That's true, because now they're readily available and the panic rush is over. But at the time when they first started flooding the market again with these products, people were buying them up because they're used to being like, oh, we can't get them at Christmas, can't get them at holidays. And that's one of the reasons why they've sold so many systems now. But as the next year goes on and there's one first party game, maybe two, the other ecosystem, Xbox, is going to look a lot better to a lot of those people. So we will see at the end of the generation as to how this all plays out. But I have a feeling that it's Square will wish they had been more diverse, because a lot of people are saying, like, well, if they're the market leader, you need to be on them. Well, the other elements to to selling games is, if you're going to make more money, the more places you sell it. It's simple math.
Yeah, again, math 101, folks. The more areas that you can put a game, the more chances you're going to make a sale. Now, let's just say, for shits and giggles, Crazy Lou Gaming, that there are 40 million PlayStation 5s in the wild, which I believe that's about the number. With that said, now, PlayStation gamers, I'm looking at you. As much as they are on Twitter, poking fun at Xbox or console warring, or on YouTube, and they're doing their YouTube videos and channels, they don't really buy first party games. They just don't. The numbers are there, folks. Now, there are some exceptions, God of War being one of them. Sold gangbusters. Last of Us, when it came out, Last of Us 2 sold gangbusters. Horizon, not so much. Gran Turismo, not so much. But they do have, Spider-Man's another one, 30 million, amazing, no pun intended. And 2 is gonna sell just as much. But I don't think it sells because it's a PlayStation game. It sells because it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man sells. He's the number one character in the entire planet. OPS, by the way. And they own the movie rights to him, and they're taking advantage with Marvel to have that character as an exclusive on their brand. Smart on Sony. So if the PlayStation gamers, the diehard fans, right, the ones console warring, are not buying their first party games, do you think they're going to run out to buy Final Fantasy 16? Well, I mean, I don't know, but we're going to certainly find out. And we will see, because remember, it's not cross-platform, Crazy Lou Gaming. One console, PS5. I think that after the first 30 days, you'd be lucky if you sold 10% of your fan base, which would be 4 million copies. And that, I think, would be a good. I don't even think they hit that. What are your thoughts on Square Enix concerned that they're not going to sell?
I mean, basically, I would be, if it was me, I would be really concerned, especially after the Forspoken flop you guys sold to all those PS fans. I mean, I was one of them that was waiting for Forspoken, but as soon as I saw the game, I was like, no way, I'm not getting this game. The way it looks, it's just horrible. So really, I have my doubts on this Final Fantasy, and if it's been delayed twice, I mean, how many times did Forspoken get delayed? I think it was 3-4 times it got delayed. I don't remember, but Forspoken has had a lot of delays. And once it came out, I mean, look how it looked. And it makes you wonder if I should go right now and let me place my pre-order. No, I'd rather wait, for the game to release, right? And then after the game releases, I need to check how the game is looking, if it's looking good, if it's not buggy, if it's not messy. And then I'll probably sit down and say, hey, let me pay that $70. Another thing, Square just keeps on complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining. I mean, I'm going to tell you something. if you're having issues selling your game and you're having issues, to get the fans, from Final Fantasy to get your game, I mean, seriously, what you gotta do is stop your bitching, grab your game, put it multiplat, and then you'll see how your sales will go up too. Because really, there's fans everywhere. There's everywhere fans of the Final Fantasy series. Instead of you giving crap to everybody, right, and giving all the good stuff only on PlayStation, right, and look how that's doing. Why don't you just release it to everybody so all of us can go ahead and say, hey, let me buy my copy on Xbox. Let me buy my copy on Nintendo. Let me buy my copy on PC. Give us that chance instead of making us, let's wait till next year. Like, for example, PC release probably 2024. Have to wait a year for that? Oh, no. Like they said, you got to get a PS5 to get this. So seriously, I'm going to spend $500 just to play one game. I mean, honestly, Square, really open your mind and stop that. That complaining, and seriously, open multiplat. It's time to do it because you're losing money, baby. But if you don't want to, then that's on you guys. And hey, another thing, release the game good, please. Don't release it like Forspoken. We don't want another buggy mess. Thank you.
Well, I pulled a story that should ring a lot of bells here. And we'll close it out because we got to get into what Arron Greenberg is saying, because this is obviously an Xbox show, and I don't care less. I could care less about Final Fantasy 16, but I pulled a story from Tweaktown. Now, this was, of course, written by Derek Strickland. It was published on June 3rd, 2022. It was updated again on June 24th. And this is I don't even know how this is possible, folks, but I guess this game is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. Because according to Derek Strickland, who obviously is the owner and operator of tweaktown.com, he says Square Enix has published a list of highlighted development talent working on Final Fantasy 16, but this is by no means a complete list. The publisher is spending, check this out, folks, many millions to develop this game, and the total game dev spending, oh my God, is a record for the company, $711 million as of last fiscal year. That is just development on this game that has nothing to do with, of course, the advertising. So after it's all said and done, Final Fantasy 16 could be $1 billion game when you factor in shipping costs and production and development and, of course, advertising. So $1 billion, it's a $70 game. I mean, again, folks, not a mathematician here. There's no doubt that this game is going to fall under expectations, because they're never going to make that money back. Let's just say, for shits and giggles, it stopped in 2022 at $711 million to make this game. They still wouldn't make their game that money back. So, well, there's that. But listen, folks, we got to talk about Arron Greenberg. Man, oh man, he is out here walking the walk, talking the talk. And, he did, how all of this came to fruition was he put out a tweet, very simply, 7 days until our first ever double feature, roughly 2 hours of nonstop games, and Starfield. Now, this is where, if you look, we have heard this before. You've heard it on ILP. You've heard it on Dave's show. You've heard it on the Xbox International podcast. You've heard it with Fuzzy and those and that crazy crew over at Mav. Xbox listens. They're one of the few publishers that keep their ear to the floor. Phil Spencer, during his interview, if you ever needed confirmation that dude actually listens to these shows. Now, I can't say specifically he's listened to mine. If I ever found out, believe you me, I'm going to tell you, because that would be dope. But I do know Xbox listens to the show. Now, I don't know who listens, but somebody listens. And the fact that during the Kind of Funny interview, he mentioned, I see the hashtag Fire Phil movement out there. That was like an oh shit moment. He does listen. So one of the conversations, gentlemen, and of course esteemed chat, that we have talked about on this show, many people have talked about it on their shows, is what is Microsoft or specifically Xbox Game Studios going to show? And will it be considered an epic fail if we see a bunch of CG, kind of like what happened with Sony? Well, I'm here to tell you that Arron Greenberg has answered those questions not once, but multiple times, folks. And he took a couple of jabs at Sony, which, of course, Arron Greenberg, Greeny as he's known to the masses, actually showed his fangs, and they're quite sharp, folks. Because this is what Arron Greenberg had to say. None of our first-party games in the show are full CG trailers. Everything is either in-game footage, in-engine footage, or in-game footage with some cinematics. Each of our trailers will be labeled so it's hopefully clear for our fans. Dave, this sends a striking message to anyone doubting that they're not going to deliver on this show, not only with first party, but on how it's presented. And we just learned, thanks to you, you dropped it into DM, folks, and this is confirmed by Microsoft themselves. Tom Warren of The Verge actually reconfirmed this. Of course, I really trust Tom. Tom's a good friend of the community. He has confirmed that the Xbox Showcase is, in fact, going to be streamed to YouTube in 4K 60 FPS. Now, that tells me, we'll talk about it in a second. I got some theories, folks. But Dave, I want to go to you first. Greeny out here, not tempering expectations, not telling you you should, move your dial from 19 to back to 8. It's going to be a good show. He's telling you that all first party is going to be in-engine or gameplay from said game. How does that make you feel as an Xbox gamer?
Excited beyond belief. This is what we've been waiting for, man. We've talked about it. You've talked about it. You've been on and on about how they need to market it, how they need to, quit dropping the ball, it's like, oh, so close, but then not quite there, or up to the line, but not crossing it. They really seem, of course, we got to wait until what happens on Sunday. But as of right now, the momentum is absolutely full throttle in Xbox's court. Now, does that mean they're going to start taking market share and all that? Probably not right away, no. But I mean,
that takes time.
The potential is there,
yeah.
And you have to, make a good presence. And this is the time of year you want to do this, because you show up big. You make some. I mean, I think Thursday we're going to see a few surprises too, at Keely's event, just to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And then come the holiday season, when mom and dad are like trying to figure out what to get little Timmy, and they're looking at like, $15 a month, all these games, great content, compared to all this money I'm going to have to spend, and he's never going to play with the VR again. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking. I think this is a win-win-win, and not only did he, like one little tweet, it was the succession of tweets.
It was mass tweeting. Yeah,
it was like just knocking him down, like bat him up and I'll knock down.
I'm going to say what wind up happening, at least in my expert opinion, and I like to believe my opinion is expert, but I'm full of shit, right? I think it kind of felt like the nozzle got knocked off of where you turn on the hot water, and you kind of turn it on, and it got knocked off. And you're like, Jesus, Arron, we can't stop the water. Let it go. And he went out there, and he was out there doing his thing. Look, folks, I'll say this. If you go into a show with tempered expectations, are you really a fan? Like, are you really? Because I would rather be disappointed than surprised. And I mean that with full authority. I go into every show. I went to the Sony show. You heard me talk about it, folks. I said, Sony is going to deliver. They've been around in 2 years. They're going Year of Dreams Part 2. How many times did you folks hear me say that? A multitude of times, because that's what I believed. And of course, my disappointment was, well, they didn't show up. Nintendo, when they have their Treehouse event, I am super stoked to potentially see Metroid 4 Prime. Am I going to see it? I don't know. Am I going to get Mario Odyssey 2, which I expect to launch later this year? I don't know. Maybe. But I'm going in with high expectations. The same thing with Xbox. I have absolutely no doubt, folks. Zero doubt that they are going to hit. Now, understand, Dave, not every game there is going to be for every gamer. Now, there's going to be some service games in there. They're going to take up, 15 minutes. You get your Sea of Thieves. Not a fan, but appreciate and respect the work that Rare is doing. Maybe we'll get some Grounded. Maybe we'll get a Halo something in there. This is this fires that they have to stoke because this is their service games that are doing very well for them. Some RTS stuff in there. Age of Empires 4. There's another, the Aria one. Doesn't interest me. I'm not saying I'm going to fall asleep. I'm just saying that those are not for me. But I know some people that are like Pong Soul being one of them. Like, oh my God, I can't wait. So there's going to be something for everyone. Where I'm going to sink my teeth into it is the first party stuff that we've all been asking for. But Crazy Lou Gaming. I want to read another tweet from Senor Arron Greenberg. He says this. No plans to tease, temper, or spoil anything. Love seeing all the wild expectations. My advice is just to come with an come open-minded and enjoy the ride. Appreciate the years of hard work so many teams have put their heart and soul into for you, all with the love emoji. I mean, how do you top that? How do you top that, Crazy Lou Gaming?
I gotta tell you something, brother. This showcase is gonna be the best. I mean, I have a feeling it's gonna be the showcase we've been asking for such a long time. It's gonna be way better than last year. I mean, I'm telling you, I have that feeling. I mean, I'm telling you that this Sunday, I know at the end of that showcase, I know Phil Spencer's gonna be wearing that world title belt on that shoulder, being the champion. Because man, it's gonna be crazy. I mean, I think they're just gonna show pretty much what they have ready, what they gotta show, and it's been those games we've been asking about for the last 2 years. We've been asking about for a while. We've been asking about for this. We've been asking about for that. I mean, we're gonna get a whole bunch of stuff probably. Oh man, I'm really excited. I'm really hyped. I'm telling you, there's nothing that can top that. I mean, nothing. Because hey, Xbox is gonna even throw the kitchen sink. I'm telling you that. I'm telling you, they're going to come really super hard, bringing it on. They're going to break things up, man. I'm telling you.
I had to throw a pause in there. That sounded very sexual, so I'm gonna throw a pause in there.
I did not mean it like that. I said they're going to bring that heat. They're going to bring it on. That's what they're going to do. And man, I'm telling you, after this Sunday, it's going to be stepping into the next box. Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, that's how it's going to be. I cannot wait till this Sunday, really. I'm super hyped.
Hyped. I mean, there's a lot to get excited about. One of the things, I think when you look back at Sony's show being as terrible as it was, crazy, it wasn't. I mean, of course, it was the fact that there weren't any really big first-party games outside of Spider-Man. Yep. And the games that they showed that were, gas games, they were CG trailers. I said this before and I'll say it again. The biggest disappointment for me was Jade Raymond's game because, like I said, she has a pedigree of amazing storytelling when it came to single player games. And when she signed with PlayStation, I said, "Oh, that's the perfect publisher for her because she does single player experiences where it tell these epic stories." Obviously, we saw her work in Assassin's Creed. We saw her work in Splinter Cell. So I had no doubt that she was going to be able to deliver. It turns out that her game is a gas game, and it's a ripoff of Payday. Just not my thing. Sony, Sony, they're selling systems, folks. Let's call a spade a spade. They're selling hardware. Now, I can't say all hardware, and obviously Project Q is just like the PlayStation VR 2.0, that is going to be DOA. Right? The Project Q, the handheld that doesn't do actual streaming other than from the console, and is probably going to be priced at $300 minimum dollars. Is going to be DOA.
I
But
think it's going to be 500 though, because they like to put things close to the 500 range. But yeah,
they love that. Yeah, they love the five. Who doesn't love $500? I'll take a couple $500 right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. But you know, the Sony showcase for me, Mr. Boomstick. I mean, I thought it was Jeff Keighley who did the show. I gave it a 7 out of 10. You know, and third party and first party gave it a 5 out of 10 because I expected more. I don't understand. They didn't throw what they should have thrown. They should have thrown a lot more. But hey, all I know is this Sunday, Xbox is bringing in the heat, baby. That's all I know.
Absolutely. Listen, there's been a ton of super chats. We've got a new channel member, so big shout out to that. Let me just talk about that before we get Fuzzy Belvedere's opinion. First of all, the new channel member, comes the way of Fanto Sir. Welcome, brother. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member. We do greatly and honestly and truly appreciate that. Drawn TJ drops the first super chat of the day of $2 and says, "Hi guys, hold the line, get hyped indeed." Tom from Tsunami. Tom, what's going on there, brother? He drops very generous $2 super chat and says, "Well, if it isn't the consequences of Square Enix actions." Yep, I absolutely agree. I think Square Enix has pooped the bed, and you know what? If they get bought out by Sony, good on Sony. Good for you. You can keep the Final Fantasy games exclusive, which they pretty much are. And I don't even know why. Why would you even invest when you're getting the milk for free? I don't know, but I'm not an analyst. Drawn TJ drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Phil Spencer needs to come out on the stage of the show wearing a Hold the Line T-shirt. Start the show, say, 'I know you've been waiting for these games. Well, wait no more.'" That would be kind of dope. And of course, King David would be beside himself. I think King is going to be out in Florida, in California, along with many of the Iron Lords. Silent Cypher, who of course is going to be a guest with Doom Cutie this Friday morning on our official prediction show on Breakfast with Boom. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Square needs to put up multi-plats or shut up." Indeed, they absolutely do. We have R&B, aka the Underground Gamer, drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Tell Square Enix to stick their concerns where the sun does not shine. They should be used to it dealing with Sony. WBG podcast sends regards." Indeed, brother. Shout out to WBG podcast. And thank you, of course, for the generosity. Raiden Blade drops a £2 super chat and says, "SIE has convinced Square Enix it's best on PlayStation 5. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is Sony dropping a bag or just going like this, coming with a handout? You know, just put it on the console. It's all right. You'll be all right. Like if like I said, the bean counters at Square Enix, they got to go do their math, go back to school. We have Dreadful Sean drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Within 6 months or less of release, that will be on the announcement of a PlayStation 4/PC version coming in 2024. Yeah, well, obviously, according to Sony and Square, that SSD, the only way Final Fantasy 16 exists. Dreadful Sean drops an additional, very generous £2 super chat and says, "Current Diablo 4 players is 3 million. Let's go." That's not a surprise. The numbers for that game are going to be crazy. And just think, and again, I don't know, but just imagine that moving forward, once this ABK deal is done, anything from Diablo is going to be considered first party and launching into Game Pass day and date. Yikes. We have Silent Cypher drops a very generous additional $2 which says time out Lou for the hashtag coming super hard. I'm dead. Silent Cypher, I can't believe I read that on the air. Drawn TJ drops a very generous additional $5 super chat and says, "Don't forget on the 12th extended show for Xbox, on the 13th the Forza Motorsport show." Yeah, dude, it's just going to be. And don't forget the 12th is when the CMA gets their teeth handed to them once again. And we actually have a story we're going to get into that was broken by both Post Up and Foss Patents on Twitter where we have learned, folks, that president of Microsoft is going to be meeting with the Prime Minister of the UK to talk about their frustrations with the CMA. And I don't know when this was scheduled, because it kind of seems like it's a little bit of a conflict, because the CAT judges, or the judge that oversaw the first hearing, which again really embarrassed the CMA, like, for everyone, because we watched it, we were all in shock how terrible they were, unprepared. It might have been like a cross, because we had heard that maybe that Microsoft closes over the CMA. I don't think they're going to close over the CMA, because CAT looks like they're going to walk back their decision of blocking it, and ultimately, potentially ruling in the favor of Microsoft, because, to be honest with you, Microsoft isn't doing anything illegal. The only one that might have colluded, that might have done some illegal behavior, is the CMA. Now, I don't know if that's with Sony, that's with the FTC, or both, but they're certainly not protecting the interest of the UK gamers. They're protecting the interest of Sony, who has a dominant 70+% market share there, as well as trying to protect the ridiculous and stubborn ideology of Lena Khan and the FTC. I don't know where this is going to ultimately go, but I think the FTC, who was unfallible by some experts in our community, who were unbeatable by several experts in our community, are going to be proven wrong, because they're going to ultimately lose. Let's bring in Fuzzy Belvedere. Let's talk about Arron Greenberg and some of his commentary. The one, I think, the one that stands out the most is he was questioned by a community member who is currently not an Xbox user, and he simply said, "I'm not a current Xbox user, but I'm getting interested in what the showcase is going to what the showcase is going to ultimately show us."
Mhm.
And Arron Greenberg said in a very shocking tweet for me personally, because I've never seen him talk like this. He said, "Well, in regards to Starfield, you might want to bring an extra pair of underwear," with the head exploding emoji. And again, that is the cherry on top of this ridiculous Sunday that gave us this whole conversation to have. Arron Greenberg out there, he showed the fangs. He put out he didn't quash any expectations. He said, "I love seeing the different takes on it. Just be open-minded, come and enjoy yourself."
Yeah.
The fact that we are hearing, I mean, I gotta say, it's a bit of balls of steel, right? Like, we've seen some Starfield stuff, but we haven't actually seen like recent Starfield stuff. For Arron, who is the head of marketing, to get out there and say that, man, that's suggesting that Starfield is going to slap in the best way possible. Let's talk about it.
Well, he definitely tweeted some things that, put a lot of like concern to rest, as far as like if it will be shown as like CGI and stuff. So he shot that down. They're going to have either in-engine or in-game with, some of the cinematic cutscenes mixed in there. But it's going to mainly be what, or pretty darn close to what you'd be getting, as opposed to something that they created as like a concept to recruit devs and things like that. So a lot of these games are going to be shown are probably a lot further along than some people might think. They're also streaming in 4K 60. So that also puts to rest some of the concerns about a particular title possibly only being 4K 30 on release. So if they're showing or streaming at 4K 60, that probably lays the groundwork that everything there is going to be 4K 60.
Including Starfield. Hello, folks.
Exactly.
We've been asking for it. There you go.
And then the fact that they people have been asking them about like movies, and like, no movies, just games. And then somebody was like, well, to clarify, what about TV shows? Because we all know about the Fallout TV show that's coming out and stuff, and shot that down as well.
That's where it gets slanderous. He did a tweet for, if you're not sure what Fuzzy Belvedere is actually saying, on top of the ridiculous tweets that Arron put out there, he said two very slanderous things. This is not a shot across the bow. This is, "Hey Jim, what's that?" And he kicked him in his balls, because he said live for everyone to see, just confirming there will not be any movie trailers at the Xbox showcase. And then someone, whether they were being facetious or not, Dave and Crazy Lou Gaming and Fuzzy, he goes on to say, they go on to ask, what about TV shows? And he says, I can confirm that there will be no movies, there'll be no TV shows, just games, and more games. I mean, that's...
Yeah, there's some shade. So they're definitely stepping up their game in comparison. Like, I won't say it's quite the this is how you share a game moment, but yeah, it's that same kind of energy. Like the same thing with like, oh, look at these great group of games that are coming to Xbox right after the PlayStation showcase, and now it's like, oh, everybody trolled them about TV back in 2013. So now it's like, yeah, we're just going to be all about the games, no movie trailers, no TV series, none of that nonsense. So yeah, this is a game showcase meant for just basically games. So yeah, it's awesome to see him out there. Awesome to also not see like a temper expectations thing. I always hate to see that, but the fact that he's up here, having fun with the fans, knocking down some of the trolls and stuff like that, and getting people pumped up for this showcase, man. It is something that I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm pretty sure everybody here is looking forward to. And there might not be all the games there might not be free, but there's definitely going to be quite a few that are, at least for me, I know I'm interested in. And two of the main headliners are ones that I'm most interested in, but anything else beyond that is like icing on the cake for me. Definitely looking forward to seeing like maybe a release date for Forza. I know we get the thing a couple of days later as far as the Forza monthly, but I can't get enough of Forza. I know people might be sick of Forza by now, but not me. And then the fact that we get Starfield, being a big sci-fi nut, I'm looking to see how that shows at the end of the showcase and everything. And yeah, Diablo might get a little bit of run for its money as far as playtime at that point. So I want to see what I'll be giving up Diablo for at the end of that showcase. But man, can't wait until Sunday. So
yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, listen, if you see the trolls out there trying to temper your personal expectations, don't be bothered by the stupidity. Block and move on, mute and move on. If you're hyped for this show, and you have every right to be, this is something that Xbox gamers have been clamoring for. At least in my personal opinion, I don't know about what the panel thinks and what the chat thinks, but the best show that I could remember in a very, very long time was the Xbox 2020 event, where we saw Hellblade, where we saw Avowed, where we saw State of Decay 2 and Halo Infinite and a Fable and a Perfect Dark. I mean that's a fucking showcase right there, right? So if we can get something to at least match that, it is going to be a giant W. And one of the things that, we don't really talk too much about because it's kind of gotten out of our brain pans, right? We don't think about this. You think about consoles. Like Microsoft is having a significant time getting Series X consoles out to the wild. Sony has been doing it by spades, and they're selling like hotcakes now. I mean, depending on who you ask, some people are like, is that because they were looking weak for regulators? They wanted to, really bump up the Sony numbers to prove that, hey, listen, we are in third place, and in some opinions and circles, we're in fourth place. When you talk about Apple Arcade and things of that nature, I mean that's a debatable topic. But one thing that we could possibly see after this showcase, at maybe a later announcement down the line as we roll into the holiday, gentlemen, is the streaming box that we know that is in development, right? The one you plug to your TV, that's like an Apple TV, or there's like a Google TV or whatever other TV things that they have. Well, this is going to be specifically for games. Now we know that all of the Samsung TVs from 2021, I think, have been updated to present, that have the app on there. You can pick Xbox and play games with a wireless controller. But I got to tell you, man, if they could figure out a way to shrink the device. Now we saw it on Phil's shelf. What's on the funny game of what's on Phil's shelf. He talked about it. We know it's in development. They're trying to make it smaller. They're trying to cut costs. You can do that. You had like a little, I don't know, size of a small book or your phone, for instance. You know, I have a Galaxy S21. If they can make it maybe slightly about that size or a little bit bigger, you slap a controller in there and you put it on the shelf for $79 during the holidays after having what we all are anticipating a freaking killer show. You're talking about, remember, those are going to be considered console sales because it's selling a console. It's just not your traditional console. It's gonna be a pretty big deal. And again, maybe do they show it at this show? I don't know. I don't know if I want to see any hardware. I want 90 minutes of games, and if what Arron Greenberg folks is saying is true, and it's games, and more games, that's going to be a lot of games for a 90-minute show. I mean, that's. Do they go in depth in one or two of them that take maybe 10 minutes potentially? But if they're going to show games, and it's only going to be games, it's going to be a lot of games. But I do want to move on to a story, gentlemen, that, again, this comes the way of Foss Patents. He posted this on his timeline, as he does. And we have learned in a report from Bloomberg.com, Dave. Now, Dave, obviously, I call you our money man. Obviously, you work in banking. You have been firm that this deal was going to go through even after the block. You were standing shoulder to shoulder with me. Obviously, we saw what happened with a lot of really nasty people who took massive pop shots at Post Up and, of course, Foss Patents. And I'm sure I don't really read those bylines, but that's fine if you took a shot at me for being, pro ABK deal. And ultimately, you were in the corner of, this deal's still going through. And ultimately, whether the CMA backs off or not, the UK could potentially going to be stuck without Xbox and Xbox games, and maybe even Activision games, and that's going to be on them. But we learned from Bloomberg at the end of the week that President and Vice Chair Brad Smith has piloted a meeting with UK Chancellor Jeremy Hunt to discuss a competition the competition's regular, the CMA's decision to block the proposed acquisition of game publisher Activision Blizzard. Talks are likely to be scheduled during a visit by Smith to the UK during the potential, showings of advanced AI that Microsoft is going to be doing. Now, a Microsoft representative commented on this and said Smith will discuss the need for thoughtful regulation of AI, which we know that's why he's going there, along with holding private discussions on matters including the Activision Blizzard deal. Microsoft remains committed to finding creative and constructive ways to address remaining regulatory concerns, the representative added. And it also has here, Bloomberg has stated Chancellor Jeremy Hunt will also, this is where it gets interesting, hold talks with the Competition and Markets Authority, known as the CMA, officials during his trip abroad. Dave, look, the numbers that they came up with were preposterous. The CMA were absolutely embarrassed by the cat last week, to the point where I said this before. This is like an NFL team playing against junior varsity of a grade school. That's how bad and opposite the professionalism was of the Microsoft attorneys, and of course the cat versus the CMA, who showed up with an attorney that only got the case 2 days prior. Shocking to me, but yeah, it happened. When you hear, and this is the first time ever, they actually said that in the article, it very rarely happens that the CMA makes a decision and that the chancellor or the prime minister get involved with it, because as we learned from several people that know the business, they have been very highly opinionated about how CAT is unfallible, right? They cannot be beat. Once they say no, it's no. It turns out that either one or two things is going to happen. Either the CMA is going to admit that they got the numbers wrong, which they have, or Microsoft is going to carve out of the UK, leaving them on an island logistically all by themselves. And then where everywhere else is getting Game Pass goodness with Activision, UK gamers are going to have to unfortunately pay the piper and continue to buy them at $70. How big of a deal is this meeting between the two titans, if you will?
Unprecedented. That's the main word right there. Never happened before. And there's a lot of lawyers that we've spoken to, that you've had on your panel before.
Yep.
That early on that were like, this is done deal, and that's because they were going on precedent, and you can't blame them.
Well, going on history more so than anything.
Well, exactly. But now that it's and even some of them are like, maybe 30%, they've loosened their belt up a little bit. When they were 100%, this is not going through, the deal's done, everything's finished. No, it's not finished, it's not done. What was it to say? The fat lady hadn't sung yet. So this fat guy is telling you need to hold on to your hats, because things are going to get good in the next couple of weeks. I think we're really going to find out what's going to be. It's either going to be, and I mean soon, you're going to find out that they're either going to backpedal and let it go through, or they're going to, like they did earlier, like a couple of months ago, oh, well, we got this part wrong, and then they decided to go after the other part, which was the cloud gaming. But I think they're going to be like, oh, well, they'll either, suck it up and clear it off the books, or they will, I think they're really getting their arms bent by the politicians and by the leadership, because they know it makes them look bad. They know economically it's not going to be good for the country, especially the face that it puts out. It's not that that the ABK deal is going to hurt the UK's bottom line just by this deal alone, but the ramifications that other businesses and entities and corporations that are like, well, if they're having this much problem over a deal that we can all see is clearly easy and should go through, then why do we want to mess with them? And that's could be bad for UK, and that's kind of where they're at now. They're trying to clean up the mess that the CMA has kind of put them into. They painted them in the corner, for their whatever reason that they're trying to do this. It's clearly not for protecting, the consumer in the UK. That's clearly not why they were doing this. So it's there's other reasons involved, other things going on. So we need to they need to to get their act together. And I think the last the other nuclear option is on the board. There is that possibility that they can, there's, first people are like, oh, they're not going to want to pull out of the UK, and they're not. I think they've assessed, and that's why they get that other special team of lawyers involved that are now looking at going, okay, well, cool. Well, we may be able to just move this one division that's actually based in the UK, King, I believe it is, remove those studios.
Yep.
More to the mainland in Europe, and relocate, and then we'll be able to continue to. They may not be able to quote unquote get them in Game Pass in the UK, but I believe they'll still be able to operate and sell those games in the UK. They're going to find a workaround, but and again too, and if that happens, the UK gamer, or the there may be a barrister that that has kids that are going to be really upset as to why I can't play this game in my country, Dad. Why can't you fix this? This is your job to fix it. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of ramifications that a lot of headaches, I should say, that they don't really want to put up with. The deal's going through one way or the other, and I think in the next couple of weeks, we're really going to get a better sense of which direction it's going to go. Whether it's going to be able to clean it up, and then the Microsoft to be able to just close, because they're going to close in the US as soon as this part is cleaned up.
Yep.
They're going to go ahead and close it out in the US, and then
they're going to close over of LenaCon for sure. They're definitely
close.
If
LenaCon wants to take them to court.
Yeah,
go right ahead, LenaCon. Take them to court, and then we'll see what happens. Let the cards fall where they may. And Microsoft has a winning hand, clearly.
Well, they have they have law, they have history, they have the numbers. Obviously, console SLC, which is still a main draw for Lena Khan and the FTC, has been concluded as not being an issue. And if it's not an issue in Japan, it's not an issue in China, it's not an issue in the EU. Why would it be an issue in the US? And, it just goes to show you that she does not know what she's doing, and she's playing stubborn, and ultimately she's just going to get another L. It behooves her to, do the right thing and allow for the deal, accept the concessions like everyone else. And most regions didn't even want concessions. The only one that really jumps off the page that wants the concessions is the EU, and Microsoft's, yeah, sure, no problem. What else you want? And again, it's going to be a done deal. Before I bring in Crazy Lou Gaming, let me just catch up on some of these super chats here, brother. We have what's that?
I was going to ask a question to the panel because this question is burning in my head lately.
Yeah, yep. You know what? We'll keep it burning. We're going to get to it in just 1 second. Jerome TJ drops a very generous additional $5 super chat and says, "Don't forget on the 12th extended." Oh yeah, he did say the extended show for Xbox, and the 13th for Forza Motorsport. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "I can't wait to see the VGAs this year. Phil taking the stage when Starfield, Diablo, and other Xbox games win, wearing a Hold the Line T-shirt. I'd love that more than anything, because I think that Spider-Man is going to win something, but I don't think it's not going to win RPG. It's not going to win. It might win Best Action Game, but even then you can consider Diablo an action game, and I think that Spider-Man could possibly lose to Diablo. We have Brett Bingham, generous friend of the program, just a $5 super chat, says Darth Phil has entered the chat. Darth Greeny has entered the chat. Darth Sarah has entered the chat. Yeah, that would be kind of dope. But we have Mike Clark, who drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Hey, Boom, keep grinding. I heard from Shooter." I have not heard from Shooter, dude. I got to reach out to him. I reached out to him 2 weeks ago, and I didn't hear back from him. I'll definitely reach out to him, because obviously, he had the back surgery. He had the surgery with his ticker, and that was doing good, but the back surgery was kind of giving him a hard time. Now, I did have Danny Passion Official, and folks, if you are having trouble with this, let YouTube know. I had a couple of people reach out to me that they can't drop super chats. I don't know why. Maybe it's the browser you're using. I would suggest, if you're going to listen to the show via YouTube, use Chrome. It seems to be one of the few browsers that works almost all the time, because it's obviously owned by Google. He attempted to drop a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Perfect Dark and Hellblade only to be shown at the TGAs." I mean, it's certainly possible. I'm not a marketing manager, folks, so what the hell do I know? But I'm going to be honest with you, and it's done. So whatever I say is meaningless at this point, because the show is done. They don't need BoomStick's help. Even if they wanted to hire me, I'd probably take the job. If I'm Xbox and I want to kick off the week, because that's what it really is. A Keeley show starts Thursday evening, which a lot of YouTubers are going to be covering it. I'm just going to be watching it as a fan, and we'll talk about it briefly on Friday morning on Breakfast at Boom. If I'm Xbox and I look at the history of what Hellblade 2 has with the VGAs, and specifically Keeley, right? We saw that it was first announced that it existed right alongside the existence of the Series X in 2019. The following year, we got gameplay and I think it was maybe they took a year break. Maybe it was 2021. We got that tease of in-game engine gameplay, right? That was debatable on whether it was gameplay or it was just, in engine. We don't really know. If I'm Xbox and you want to kick off the week in like the biggest way possible. You turn around on the Keeleys. First game out of the gate to kick that show off is actual gameplay from a finished version that shows combat, that shows everything that all the bells and whistles, and then on top of that, gives a release date for November. That brings down the house, and that's how you start off your Xbox week, which is going to have the big show on Sunday, a follow-up show on Monday, and another Forza event on Tuesday. I mean, that's Xbox all day, every day. Crazy Lou, what did you want to say, brother?
My question is the question that people are not asking. This is actually a really good question. If this deal does go through, right? It goes through 100%. Microsoft does buy Activision Blizz, everything all nice and well and done. What's going to happen with Sony? That is a question that I've been asking myself for quite a while. What's going to happen with Sony? Because Sony has not signed a 10-year deal. Sony has not done nothing with Xbox or Microsoft. So what are they going to do after that? Are they going to come running to them to get Call of Duty back on their system, or what? They're just going to let it go?
I mean, it's a great question, but obviously Microsoft is not going to deny millions and potentially billions of dollars they're going to make from PlayStation gamers that are ultimately going to fund Microsoft as a company, but fund first party and the development. And obviously, I say that with complete, I'm being facetious in the best way possible, because we had learned from Sony that they were using the monies that they were getting from Call of Duty to power the development of first-party games, and that's obviously going to come to an end because they're only going to get their 30%. They're not going to get, and actually they got less than that. Microsoft would be giving them a raise, if you will, because they were taking less from Activision, where Microsoft is going to give the standard 30. Hey, we get 70, you get 30, but the monies that is going to come in from PlayStation gamers by the millions, potentially, ultimately is going to fund Xbox first party. I think at the end of the day, that to me is the funniest thing, that you kept hearing about first party monies being used from Call of Duty to develop Sony first party, and now that's not in fact going to be the case. They're gonna that monies is going to be developing Microsoft first party, and that to me is hilarious. But Crazy, let's get your hot take on Brad Smith, who's been a proponent for this deal since inception. Obviously, he is the president and vice chair of Microsoft. He's sitting down with some very powerful people, and for good reason. I don't know, because if you remember, the prime minister and the secretary of state had said right after the decision that they were going to meet with Microsoft to discuss what exactly transpired. So I don't know if this meeting crossed over what has been happening with Cat, because I think Cat is going to they're going based on evidence and fact, not assumptions, as the CMA has been doing, right? The CMA's assumption that cloud gaming was going to get bigger than console gaming is preposterous at best. What do you think that this meeting is going to do ultimately for the CMA? You think it's going to force them to work back their decisions?
Here's the thing, though, and this is something that people need to understand. I mean, if there's a conflict of interest, I mean, the government is going to jump in, especially, if it's something that's going to make them money, they're going to jump in and see what's going on. Especially since you have, even Foss has talked about this. He's talked about it plenty of times. You have 38 countries that have approved, right? And if you have 38 countries that have approved, we got to sit down and take a look at what you guys are talking about. Us as a government, we got to sit down and see what are you guys talking about and see what's going on. Because if we got 38 countries approving and they're going to make a buckload of money, why are you guys trying to stop this deal? So we got to check you out and see what's going on. Because really, if the CMA just says block it and all that stuff, I mean, the UK is going to be like, hey, we're going to lose this chunk of change that could be good for the economy. So the talks with the UK Chancellor and all that stuff, yes, I mean, Brad Smith is going to pull all the strings he can, because hey, I would do the same thing, because I want this buy to go through. I want everybody to grab their hands on this game. I want everybody to get a hold of this, because at the end of the day, I don't want nobody to miss out on this opportunity, on this deal. I don't want nobody to miss out, especially I think the UK is like the 5th largest economy, right, in the world. I could be wrong, you know. But
Yep.
since they're the 5th largest economy in the world, you know, of course I wouldn't want them to stay out. I mean, I would want to make a deal, sit down and open up my books and say, hey, this is what I have. What do you guys have? Let's check the stats. Let's check these things, and let's get this deal going through. Because again, like I said, 38 countries approval. If you sum up those 38 countries, like Foss has, it's like 30 times bigger than the UK is. So Microsoft pulling off from that, I mean, it's got the government, you know, a bit worried, and of course they don't want to lose that chance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're going to lose money. There's going to be a de-investment by Microsoft in that region of the world, because why would you? Why would you want to invest any further? You've already been investing it, and we learned from Brad Smith, who said that they've invested in that region of the world for 4 decades, which is over 40 years, and they hit with a block that, again, ultimately is not going to hurt anyone. It's only going to improve quality. It's only going to improve the value of Xbox and Xbox Game Pass for its players. So again, it's just shocking. It's just shocking. But
can I say one more thing? Not only
sure,
that, I mean,
absolutely.
Look what we saw over the weekend. I mean, we saw, I think it was Yoshida coming out talking about how, oh man, I love reading that article on how cloud gaming is still difficult. I mean, after I saw that, I was like, what? You guys said it was going to be the ultimate conquest. It's going to defeat everything in console. Yeah. But right now you're saying it's difficult. So why don't you just let the buy go through, you know, so it can be less difficult. But okay, whatever you say, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah. What Crazy's talking about is there was an interview with the president of Sony Interactive Entertainment, where they talked about cloud gaming and how untrustworthy it is as a source for delivering content, which is why they decided to go from they chose to do a streaming device in the PlayStation Q versus a cloud device, because they said cloud is untrustworthy when it comes to its quality, and they didn't want to take a chance. So that's why they talk about a significant amount of pitfalls with cloud gaming. We're gonna touch a little bit on that tomorrow on, of course, the Xbox Factor podcast at 12 p.m. Eastern. But let's get to Fuzzy Belvedere. Let's get your hot take on this, man. What are your thoughts on Brad Smith making it his personal business to get over there, get in an audience, not only with potentially being able to speak to the Prime Minister, but also the Secretary of State regarding the what is just a bad decision by the CMA?
Well, I think people forgot when Satya were saying, you know, we'll see how things play out when directly questioned about pulling out of the UK. And it's always been an option on the table, while it may be the nuclear option and one that they don't want to push forward just yet. But if push comes to shove and that's the only resort to be able to get this deal done, then that's what they'll do. And in a grand scheme of things, it's going to cost them more money, but it's not going to cost them the amount of money that they could potentially lose in not having a bigger foothold in mobile or in PC with like a lot of the Blizzard titles and Activision in general, between the IPs and talent that's involved. And we also forget the whole Bobby Kotick and him dodging the question about the toxic work environment and some of the issues that they've had, and you know how this would probably be a complete improvement over the previous track record with Bobby at the helm. But the UK at this point is at a crossroad. Do they continue to enforce what the CMA had put forward as far as the block? Or do they, work towards coming to some sort of resolution? It seems like the people that are involved in the CMA aren't open to resolutions, and the cat tribunal judge didn't seem too pleased with their, hastiness on this decision, as well as their, call for delays as far as the preparation time, especially when they only gave Microsoft like 4 weeks and they're asking for like 11 weeks or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
3 months they were asking for. Yep.
yeah, and it oozes issues with the fact that this is like the FTC's, backdoor buddy, I guess is about the best way to put it. As far as the FTC kind of knew that they didn't really have ground to stand on, and they used the CMA as a puppet. And I don't think, other than the people that's involved in the CMA, I don't think anybody in the UK government likes being a US puppet. I think that's
They made mention of that. It's funny you say that. A lot of people didn't pick up on exactly what you're saying. The cat judge actually said something to the effect where we don't want to be used by another country.
Mhm.
If he's saying that publicly, because obviously it is a public hearing because it was
Mhm.
televised, that means that there's potential thought that that's running around the UK government.
Yeah, and I don't think the CMA really has a leg to stand on to disprove it. So at this point, a lot of the officials above their pay grade are not happy with how this looks in the public view, or the world, or the global economic stage is about the best way to put it, because you have this $1 trillion company talking about, hey, we would like to do this deal. You block something on, like, I wouldn't say it's an insignificant amount, but it's like less than a quarter of the revenue of that $1 trillion company, and you're blocking this deal just because your friend over in the US told you to, type of thing. Nobody above the CMA is happy with this, and one way or another, whether they have to overturn or sit down the CMA and be like, no, you're changing this, or there's going to be other repercussions, kind of thing. I think they're coming to a head on it, and it's going to show, I would say, probably around the late July timeframe. But the way Satya is probably talking in the background with Brad Smith, I think they close this before that. What is it, July 22nd? I think is like the contract.
I believe it's July 18th is the expiration date of the deal.
Yeah. So, and yeah, they could renegotiate it, but that involves more lawyer time and more money. And why do that, as opposed to when the end result may still result in you having to pull out of the UK? Why not just cut your losses at that point and adjust adjust accordingly? You'll probably take a smaller share when the games are distributed in the UK, because they'll have to go through like a third party publisher or something along those lines, or distribution. But it sucks for those at Playground Games and over at King and a few other studios. I think even Ninja Theory, which just built a new studio there. I think cooler heads will prevail, and some of those in Parliament will probably intervene and get this resolved. But Microsoft this wouldn't be the first foray where they've pulled out of a country because of regulatory issues and things along those lines. And typically it only lasts but for so long, and then that country is usually like, we've reviewed the paperwork or the documentation, we've adjusted our call on this, type of thing. So I don't think the CMA can really call Microsoft's bluff. I think they pull out, or begin to pull out, and then that's when Parliament steps in, and we get something resolved before the 18th then.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. Obviously, we know that after the 12th, which is the day after the big show, they're going to have their second hearing. This is going to be where the evidence is going to be presented. And Microsoft could potentially see if they can get this thing done, a decision made before the 18th, because obviously there is time is of the essence. And one thing that people seem to forget, and this was mentioned, and I believe this was either Foss Patents was talking about this, or Post Up. Microsoft ultimately is looking for the UK to pay their legal fees for the CMA making them do this. That's something to also consider, because if you didn't know, the Microsoft attorney is the Queen's former attorney. I don't know what he gets paid, probably in gold bars. But I can tell you that the Activision attorney is the former prime minister. If you didn't know, he makes $5,000 an hour for his services. So you do the math. So they're looking for the UK government, the CMA specifically, to pick up the legal tab because they forced Microsoft into this, and that's a lot of money. Let me catch up on the super chats, and we'll get everyone out of here to enjoy the rest of your Monday. Jenna Hayes in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "What will Microsoft do when developers leave Activision after the deal goes through? There is a trend of developers that keep leaving Microsoft. Why?" I'm going to tell you why they're not going to leave Microsoft, because Microsoft is allowing unions. Microsoft is in the top 10 companies, according to Glassdoor 2023, to work for, and they are an employees first place to work. I don't think anyone, I think that if the deal did not go through, those poor developers would be forced to leave because they don't want to work under Bobby Kotick. That's definitely a problem. But I don't think you're going to see a mass exodus once the deal is signed. I think you're going to see people stay on because they want to work for Microsoft and they know that it's going to be a better experience. Fantas Archer drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, hypothetical, would an ABK carve out in the UK be harmful to Sony? Sony's thought process, given that it might help them diminish Microsoft present in the UK even further. I mean, it's possible that could. I mean, it could potentially cost Microsoft some monies, but at the same time, you know, there are plenty of UK Xbox gamers, and it's going to be pretty hard sell for the CMA that if everyone around the world, and I mean everyone around the world but the UK, is getting Call of Duty and Xbox Game Pass and can buy Activision games, they can't. It's going to be a big problem.
Can I mention something on that real quick, Mr.
Sure.
Boom? All right, dude, I'm reading something on Statista.
Yes, Statista.com. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Call of Duty in the UK sold 1,675,323. If you times that, what is the price on the game on UK?
$70. Yeah.
70. Is it pounds or
well, it'd be £70. Yeah. So I mean, it would probably be US dollars. Would probably about like $90 to their £70. So their money's worth a little bit more than ours.
If you multiply that, that's like 117 million pounds that they will lose. If not they will lose. I'm talking about the UK will lose in money that they could make.
Yep.
And also Microsoft.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen. At the end of the day, they don't make enough money from the UK for it to be the one region that blocks the entire world, and that's why they're figuring out how to carve it out. Because I'm sorry to say, and I don't mean any disrespect, the UK, when they exited from the EU and they went on their own, they really kind of painted themselves into a corner, and they just don't have the same power as they did when they were with the EU. They're on their own, and when you look at numbers like that, let's just say, for instance, it's 200 million. That wouldn't be when you consider how much Call of Duty is going to make around the world. Even if it was upwards of 200 million, I'm not saying that that's not a lot of money. It's $200 million, but to pay. Does 200 million, and again, I'm being hypothetical because you heard the numbers from Crazy Loose, 117, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. 200 million versus a $70 billion deal, you got to lose the 200 million. That's what you got to do. Eternal Shaddai not only becomes a channel member, thanks so much for that, brother. He drops a very generous $2 super chat. Good afternoon, Boom and Panel. Good afternoon, kind sir. Thank you for the generosity and, of course, becoming a channel member. But let's get to the outros. Dave, we'll start first with you. Yesterday's show was epic. As a matter of fact, when I turned on this morning to listen to it, you had already 1,300 views. You had a great panel, great conversation. Let's talk about sell your brand. Talk about where people can check out your Sunday show. But not only that, where they can find some of the best one-on-one interviews on YouTube.
Thank you so much, Mr. Boomstick. Boom, you are the man. I can't reiterate that enough. And thank you so much for letting me be a part of your world and this wonderful community you have created. The show that dropped today, the interview that dropped today for Outbreak Gamers was Asa from Game On Daily. And it is a really, really good interview with him. He's a fascinating cat. I'll tell you that right now. I found out a lot more about him than I thought I would, and it's really cool. It's about a 50-minute interview, so it's definitely a nice bite-sized kickback interview to check out. Last night's show was crazy. We had the first hour. We had the Mag. He only had an hour of time to be on our show, and when he first started, he said, "Don't worry, I talk fast enough that I can get in 3 hours worth of talking." And he
does. He's a quick one. That one
exactly. And then we had Mav from Fun Speculation, and then of course we had on Risk It for the Biscuit, and it was great panel, lots of fun discussions. We went about 2.5 hours, which usually we wrap things, but that's all we talked about was speculation. And of course, in the middle of that, Greeny started dropping his tweets, so we kind of like, or whoa, what? So it was a good show, good fire show, and I tell you, I know you've got a really some big stuff coming up on right before a pre-show, and then after the show is over with, you got a show that way. It's going to be awesome as well. And then later on that night on Sunday, the 11th, we're going to do a regular time slot, but we have got special guests. We have a Dirt Riggedy, and we have Tim Dog is going to be
what
in-house.
A pair, man. That's awesome.
I know. So, and there could possibly be a few others that are sneaking in on us. I've heard some people saying, "Hey, what can I do to get in there?" I'm welcome aboard, because I have a feeling it's going to be a good show talking about all the goodness that we're going to get that day. Thanks, Boom.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Like I said, follow your favorite YouTuber. Everyone's going to be covering this, and there's going to be a lot to cover, of course. But Dave, thanks so much for being here. Crazy Lou Gaming, brother, sell your brand. Talk about the Xbox International, not only in English but in Espanol. Talk about it, where people can check that on, check that out, and more importantly, talk about the panel, talk about where people could find you and see your crazy antics as we do on Twitter. Talk about it, brother. Sell it.
All right, you can find me at Twitter at Crazy Louis Gaming, where I say good morning and do all social stuff. Here on Mondays, hanging out with you guys at the Xbox Lunch Break Special. Tuesdays, which I hope I can hop on tomorrow. I mean, I'm crossing my hands, playing with Crazy. We got to finish a game that I think is called Father's Day. I still have not beaten it. So yes, I hope I can hop on so you guys can watch me be scared, especially since I'm gonna be alone in this apartment. Ooh, freaky. But yes. And Wednesday's the Xbox International Podcast with Sour Blow, The Big Plume, and Silent Cypher. And hey, this Wednesday, chat, anybody's on the chat, if you guys want to hop on to give your predictions, hey, DM us, because we're going to bring in the chat for a couple minutes to say, hey, okay, what are your predictions? We would like to know. So DM us to tell us if you want to come onto the show. We would love to have you on there. So please DM us, DM me at Crazy Louis Gaming, and I'll tell the guys so we can set you up a spot so you can come to the show and give us your prediction of the showcase this Sunday. And last but not least, this Friday, the Xbox International Podcast in Espanol with Eternal Shaddai and ASCAP Gaming. And sometimes I may hop on over there at the Xbox International Podcast en Espanol YouTube channel.
Brother, it's always great to have you here and be a part of this show each and every week, brother. And of course, love the success that you're having over at the Xbox International Podcast. And of course, the crew over there is amazing, which again, Silent Cypher will be joining us Friday morning along with Doom Cutie and potentially a few other guests outside of Crispy Bomb and Dreadpool, and of course Web Dave and Fuzzy Belvedere to give our reaction. The first half of the show is going to be reaction to the Keeleys, and second hour of the show is going to be our actual prediction show for Xbox. And like I said in the opening, this week the shows Monday through Friday will feature at least a topic covering the predictions, because everyone, I'm not going to give my predictions 5 days in a row, but I'm going to allow, obviously, for the panel, because each show is different with different people, and to give their opinions on what they expect. And of course, we'll talk about some other news that is breaking. I think we should hear something from New Zealand this week, whether they approve the deal. And again, it's just going to be one after another until the only two left standing are the CMA and of course the FTC. And then once it gets up to upwards of 45 plus countries around the world saying the deal is okay, these two knuckleheads are going to look really dumb. But listen, Fuzzy Belvedere, sell your brand, brother. Talk about the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre, plus hot take opinions on your YouTube channel. More importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
I just want to thank you for having me on here. This was an awesome show. Getting ready for that big showcase on Sunday, man. So pumped for this stuff. But for those that want to hear my endless rambles or rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on Twitter, or you can find me on YouTube at Fuzzy_Belvedere. And then as far as other places you'll see me, you'll definitely see me here on Friday for Breakfast with Boom for some of our predictions. And then later that evening, you can also find me on Xbox Ultimate Podcast. And then Saturday, there's no shop podcast. PTK Blam is going to be out there at the showcase.
Yes, directly. He is.
And then, man, it's going to be an exciting one. And then look forward to seeing everybody back here for Xbox Ultimate next Monday. Can't wait to see you here.
Yep. Real quick, I want to just say hello to Wheezy in the chat. He's been going back and forth, and he says his last says, I'm just saying that it's been a massive bad PR for Xbox or for Microsoft. I'm a UK Xbox gamer, PC gamer, OFC. I want the deal passed, but I'm just talking about the PR look. See, the problem, Wheezy, is this. The issue at hand with PR is that it's not going to fall into Activision's or Microsoft's lap and explode. This is clearly on the CMA making a decision that was wrong. Their numbers are wrong again. Now, why did they make this decision? Are they in cahoots or being courted by the FTC and Lena Khan? I mean, there's definitely some evidence to suggest collusion. Is there corruption at the CMA where potentially someone that makes decisions are good friends with people at Sony? Well, that's been proven that in fact is the case. Now, whether money exchange and there was something illegal about it, we don't know. But they're definitely on the wrong side of history, and they're on the wrong side of actual evidence-based data. So at the end of the day, Microsoft would not give up on a $70 billion deal for $200 million, and they would carve out the UK. And that's not going to be Microsoft's problem for PR. That's going to be the UK's problem for PR. That's the CMA making a mistake that they could have fixed, but because they're in the bag with the FTC and potentially people in Sony, maybe they can't make that decision. All I can tell you is that I don't trust the CMA. And ultimately, they're going to lose, whether it's the right way and take the knee and say, hey, we got the numbers wrong and we're going to pass the deal, accept concessions, as the EU did, or Microsoft or specifically Activision is going to carve out the UK. And at that point, I'm going to feel bad for UK gamers, but that's where you're supposed to, as a citizen, get out there and tell the CMA that what they did was wrong. Because one of the things that no one talks about is there's no current trade agreement between the United States and the UK. There's a trade agreement between the EU and the United States. President Obama told them publicly, if you leave the EU, you're going to be in the back of the line with U.S. trade agreements. There's no trade agreement. That's not supposed to happen until 2025. Think for a second how that's going to go with the UK trade agreement if the United States says, hey, wait a second. You want a trade agreement, but you block two American companies from merging, from a merger. Yeah, I don't think we want to do business. So again, I feel bad for my UK brethren, but at the end of the day, that's not a Microsoft problem. That is a UK problem, and that's ultimately they're gonna wind up bending the knee, and there's not going to be any problems. We have Norse Monster drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, careful on the Square Enix hate. Final Fantasy 16 may not have as high as a ceiling of awesomeness as Starfield, but it is a higher percentage of delivering a solid working game. I mean, it's true, but I hate Square for a personal reason, and it's how they treat people outside of Japan that I have a tremendous distaste for. Yeah, they're just not a good company. They act like they're the only ones in the world when they are not. But listen, folks, that's going to do it for today's Xbox lunch break special. I am Mr. BoomStick XL, and for, of course, Web Dave, Crazy Lou Gaming, and Fuzzy Belvedere, we want to wish you a fantastic rest of your day, an amazing week. Obviously, it's Xbox's time at this Sunday. Cannot wait for that. And of course, I'm going to say a big thank you to all the super chats that have come in. I cannot thank you enough for the generosity. And I do want to close out the show with something that's important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.